So Spencer Dinwiddie has partially torn his ACL, and it's expected to keep him out for the entire season. I saw this injury live, or not live, I recorded the game and was, fast forwarding through the commercials. And when I saw it, the commentator said his knee knocked with whoever the Charlotte defender was, but it didn't look like it did. It looked like he just injured it off the plant. They showed the replay and he definitely injured it off planting that right leg. It was a non-contact injury. It looked bad in real time, just those scary non-contact injuries, and this is the news we have. This sucks because, as an NBA fan, you want to see every team at full health, every player at full health, every team and player playing up to their, full potential, and especially teams that are contending that are one of the favorites to win the championship. And especially this Brooklyn Nets team, because they're very exciting coming into the season, bringing back two, I guess you could say top 10 at least, offensive talents in KD and Kyrie, plopping them in with players in Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, and Spencer Dinwiddie, who were already carrying this offense without them, and their offense was looking dynamic as hell in the first two games. The third game they kind of sputtered, but point is, the Brooklyn Nets team was looking really nice, really entertaining, and now we have this news to talk about. As far as who to come in, obviously the first guess would be Karis LeVert. He's your best player off the bench, and he was already in closing lineups down the stretch to start this season. So obviously the first guess would be him, but Steve Nash has really experimented with Karis LeVert being that Manu Ginobili off the bench and just running the second unit by himself and keeping Kyrie and KD off the floor while Karis LeVert ran all the action in the second unit and not staggering the minutes of KD and Kyrie. He always played them together. So I don't know if Steve Nash is still going to want to go down that route, or if he'll bring in somebody like Landry Shamet to just serve as another sniper to have in the starting lineup, and you could run him at the shooting guard, or TLC. He's had some good minutes, especially as a shooter in that Charlotte Hornets game, so you can move Joe Harris to the 2 guard, TLC to the small forward. They got guys like Jeff Green. You could maybe play at power forward and move KD back to small forward with Joe Harris going to shooting guard. Same thing goes with Taurean Prince. Simply, the Brooklyn Nets have a lot of flexibility because they have guys like Kevin Durant who could play basically 3 different positions. So I don't really know what route they're going to go. They have a game today against Memphis. Kevin Durant's not going to play in that game, so we'll see who starts for Spencer Dinwiddie and for Kevin Durant. I think he's out just for rest. How much does this hurt Brooklyn's championship chances? Obviously it hurts it a bit because, Spencer Dinwiddie was a part of their 4-man attack of players that could just create off the dribble for themselves or for others, and now you're taking that player away. Even though he was struggling a bit playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, his stats weren't the best, but I think we all assumed that he would get used to it and up his points per game total to around 14 or 15, be a lot more efficient than last year because he's like the third option in the starting lineup now. So from that regard, you could say it would hurt them a bit, but I still think they're the second best team in the East in terms of best chances of making it out of the East, because the Nets offense was still pretty successful without Dinwiddie playing at his best. And this Brooklyn Nets team is still pretty deep. But this does kind of hurt the Nets in another way that I just thought about, because I assume the Nets are going to be load managing Kevin Durant from time to time throughout this season, so you could have had Spencer Dinwiddie as a guy to kind of take the scoring load on when Kevin Durant sat out of the starting lineup, and now that guy's gone. For what this means for Spencer Dinwiddie, he's got 2 years left on his contract, counting this year and next season. Next season he has a player option for $12 million, so Dinwiddie's getting underpaid a bit for what his value has been over the past couple years. So with this injury, I don't really know if he's going to opt out or opt in. If he opts in, maybe he can use next year as kind of a prove-it year to prove that he's back from his torn ACL, and then the following offseason in 2022, maybe he'd get his bag then if he could prove his value. Or he opts out and tries to get a long-term deal now, just for more security. This kind of really reminds me of the DeMarcus Cousins situation when he was injured in New Orleans. I don't know if it was an ACL or an Achilles, but it's kind of a similar deal where free agency is following and the league is pretty unsure of the player's value. That's what happened to Cousins, and now he's bouncing around on minimum contracts. We hope the same doesn't happen to Spencer Dinwiddie. I think they're around the same age of when these injuries happened. Dinwiddie's 27 right now, and I think Cousins was around the same age. So Spencer Dinwiddie's still relatively young to kind of bounce back from this injury. Hopefully it doesn't jeopardize the amount of money he can make throughout his career, because he's never had that big time payday, and he was probably primed to get that either in the 2021 offseason or the 2022 offseason.